Hello, everybody. You're watching / listening to the McAllister Hours. I'm your host, Cole McAllister. Very special episode today. We're joined by K.U.B, local Iowa Midwest podcaster. You're located in Ames, is that correct?
Yes.
I've been listening to your music for probably about a year and a half now. I've always really liked what you do. You got fire bars. You're very articulate, and you tell a story. So I've always really wanted to have you on. Honestly, it was kind of like in the early stages when I heard of you, and I didn't really know how to reach out. You kind of, just got lost in the mix, but
for sure.
Glad to have you on today, man. How you doing?
Man, I appreciate all that. Thank you. I'm doing well, having a good time. And yes, I know this has been a long time coming, so I'm glad that we're able to get everything synced up to make this happen. I love talking, so this is a good setting for me, definitely.
Well, in your music you have a lot to say, so it's always a good I guess it's kind of a mixed bag. Sometimes rappers, you get them on, they just can't talk, but usually if you can spit some bars, you have a lot to say. So
yeah, I think they can go hand in hand.
Yeah,
for sure.
Exactly. So you kind of, like I was saying before, you kind of have mentioned some of these questions in the Funky Flex interview, but what were some of your origins of your name, and what's your background? How did you all get into what you're doing now?
Yes, that is what's a good spot right here?
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah. So for the name, that my family's honestly was calling me K.U.B when I was very little, so I've been K.U.B for a long time. And then when I was young, like I listened to a lot of DMX and a lot of Jay-Z, and I really liked how
Rest in peace, by the way.
Rest in peace, man. I had to make a post on the gram for him, but that was like DMX was the first. I think I was like 7 or 8 years old, and my parents got me this edited DMX CD. My dad did. So it was a DMX, and then there was X. It was dropped in 2001, but instead of any cussing, it would just be dog noises. It was literally just bark, bark, bark. It's like half of the lyrics. So that's half how I learned like how hip hop works. And so for the name, as far as like choosing it as the name I released music under, it was a no-brainer because it was already there, and I like to make it an acronym and make so I could be all capital. So as far as how I got into music, it was really in my family as well. Like my uncle did a lot of Christian hip hop, actually. That was like his genre, and we were always listening to a lot of different musical inspirations. My dad and uncles were in a band called XL and DVD where it was kind of like a metal hip hop clash, almost like POD or Rage Against the Machine.
Oh, tight.
And they're from Southern California, so they were influenced a lot by that sound and like the rock and roll sounds that were coming out of there. So growing up, I actually listened to a lot of like rock and we had like some funk compilation CDs and a lot of Christian and gospel music, a lot of Casting Crows or Casting Crowns, whatever that band's called, and like POD and Creed. But then also like my uncle's rap CDs. Toby Mac was a Christian rapper we listened to a lot earlier on, and then that morphed more into DMX and Jay-Z.
Sorry, not to interrupt, but that's quite a jump, Christian hip hop.
And let me tell you that jump has been met with like a lot of happenings. But musically, that was always there. My grandma sang. She was operatically trained, and my grandpa sang in churches his own life. So on my dad's side, there's a lot of music, and so that was kind of always in the house. And I love to write from a young age. Like I love to read, and then that turned into a love to write. So it started out with poetry of just like writing about where I was and what I was looking at. And once I realized, once I found hip hop, it was like, wait just a minute. Like these are people who are writing complex poems and putting it to music, and you can feel it. And it felt like the ultimate form of poetry to me. And so since then, it's been always looking for some new hip hop to grow from, because I really love the genre a lot. So
fuck yeah,
that's kind of a nutshell.
No, hip hop is great, man. There's so many different things you can do with it. And when it's funny that you mentioned poetry, because you have some of those intros, and you can just tell that you have a very poetic sense of you. Have you ever heard of Ames? Are you familiar with him?
Oh yeah. Ames has had me out to perform to do I've done stand-up poetry out there with Ames.
Oh, okay, cool.
At some of the battles that have you been to any of his battles?
I have not been to any of his battles. No, I did see a clip of it. He does
this thing, yeah. Ames is I love how he's really unapologetically poetic. Like he very much owns up and like states that as like that's the way he communicates, that's the way he expresses himself, but he's able to take it into so many different avenues and spaces. And Ames is who we're talking about, for those who don't know, coming out of the Quad Cities.
Yep.
He's a poet, he's a rapper. You should look him up. I think his Instagram is probably like
Poetic Ames. We've had him on the show. So.
Yeah, just check back on that episode because he's worth looking up for sure.
He's that man. I swear, he's like one of the smartest people I've ever met.
10,000%.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess what I'm saying is like there's definitely a correlation between poetry and hip hop. That's really cool that you actually like know him that way too.
Oh yeah, no, Ames is the man. Yeah, I love Ames. I haven't seen him for a while, but I need to tap back in with him.
Hell yeah, very smart, and like you said, very unapologetic. Like his opinions and what he thinks about whatever, he does not give a fuck.
And you can't. You really can't.
Well, yeah, if you really if you want to do something like this, or if you want to be a rapper, if you really want to be a rapper, you gotta be able to express yourself.
Right. If you really want to be in tap with life, like you gotta express yourself, whatever it is, for sure.
Mentioning all like how you listen to like DMX Censored, and like you kind of came from like Christian hip hop beginnings, which I'm not really personally familiar with, but we were talking. I grew up in Orange City, so I definitely knew about
there's
it.
some circle,
and kind of listen to your music too. I don't really notice a lot of cursing. Like, do you have like an opinion? Like, do you try to stay away from cursing, or how do you feel about all that?
That's a good question. So growing up, I didn't curse, and like I thought cursing was the worst. I grew up in a very like religious family, and I really bought into how that was presented to me. I was homeschooled till 8th grade, and kind of like had limited exposure to some of that. Yeah, limited exposure to some of that like cultural elements, or even a lot of contemporary music. Like we didn't listen to like pop radio until I was like, I remember it was when the Black Eyed Peas owned the summer airwaves and dropped like Boom Boom Pow and Meet Me Halfway and all those classics from our youth. That was like, before that, like we weren't even listening to like Kiss on the radio, like Kiss 107. So we were listening to like some hard rock and some hip hop, but there's other stuff that we kind of couldn't and didn't listen to, and that definitely shaped my upbringing in high school and then college. More recently, I was able to kind of step away and grow and make my own decisions, and that kind of expressed itself in the language that I chose as well. So I do still cuss in my music, and I think that like there's some stuff you really can't say without cussing. Like, there's really just no way to get around it. So yeah, I think that's obviously the main frame I'm coming from. It's just that like in my language, or in the way that I normally talk, I like to pick a lot of words into the bouquet, if that makes sense. So
do you feel like you experienced a lot of censorship growing up?
I would say kind of self-censorship in a way. I think that it was really more just like buying into what was being teached or what was being taught. Really kind of buying into these ideas of what life's supposed to look like, and kind of having this just clean outlook, I think. Maybe not censored, but like not willing to give myself the space to kind of delve into those darker areas or those deeper topics and those things that people don't like to talk about, and so I think that once I learned that that's part of life as well, and there's none of the life doesn't exist in a vacuum. Life doesn't exist in black or white. It's right in between. Life is pretty gray, not in a bad way necessarily, but just as I've had space and time to expand, I think that's kind of shown up in my music and in my outlook. So I wouldn't say censor necessarily, but definitely like a lot of questions I was asking myself. Yeah. No,
I mean, and that's good. And that's probably honestly kind of the opposite censorship, in a way. Like I guess I was just curious because I I grew up in a very censored environment myself.
Yeah.
So I was always kind of on the opposite. I was always trying to like find the, kind of, you talk about self-centering. I was kind of the opposite. I was like,
yeah, no, 100%. It was, and that definitely played a factor. Like, I definitely did, but it was definitely, a lot going on. I would say.
Hell yeah. So what age exactly did you like get into hip hop, and how old are you now? How long have you been doing it?
Yeah, so I'm 23 now. I started listening to hip hop.
Oh wow, you're young. 23.
Like 7 or 8. I'm 23. Yeah.
Damn.
I mean, I feel I'm not old, but I be feeling a bit older than last year at least. But I would say probably started listening more closely to hip hop when I was like 7 or 8. Like I think when I started paying attention more to what was going on, as far as like specific songs, not like the bigger culture. Mm-hmm. But I started writing and like recording stuff I think when I was 13, and it was me and my cousin. My cousin Skip, he doesn't go by Skip. His name is Noah. He goes by Baby Moses. Look him up on SoundCloud too. Baby Moses he produces all his own stuff and puts his own lyrics over it in a way that you've never heard before. Like it sounds like hip hop music from space or from just for aliens. And he's the best kept secret, so I'll give you some info on him too. At SoundCloud is Baby Moses. But he's a 2 years younger than me. 1 year younger than me. He's close in age to me, and 1 year. And so we kind of both started writing. Like I think I started writing first, but then when he started doing it, he put such a different type of focus on it that it was like, oh, like now, like if I really want to say that this is something I'm doing, like I have to at least try to keep up with this kid, because he just like he has like the most singular focus, and when you put that on hip hop, it's still there for him. So I kind of had someone pushing me at the beginning, and then we were also putting songs together. And so it was fun. Like we went to our uncle's house to record, and then I had just like a Shure microphone with I think it was the Avid M-Box Mini plug-in, USB plug-in, and I had no pop filter. And I would literally I'd find beats on YouTube, I'd download them, and then I would try to do a one take. Like I'd try to do a whole song with one take, because I didn't know how to edit, and I did not trust myself to like go back and fix my mistakes. So I was like, I got to get it right on the first try. So I would just be in my basement going over and over, and always like in my notebook in school. It was kind of like a place I'd go to kind of process what I was going through, as a teenager. And so it was in those teen years that it really started to be something that I like to invest in, to invest time in.
Fuck yeah. Well, describing that, early recording process, that's really the way to, develop skill. When I listen to your stuff, like I'm surprised that you say you're 23. Like I would have guessed that you were much older based on, the wordplay that you use and how things are rhyming, but like also you're like, what was the song? Dangerous. Like there are certain parts in that song that have, very obvious different tone changes. Like you can tell you're putting more energy in this one part, and then you're kind of pulling back on this part. Yeah. So I mean, I guess there's a lot of people that I know that kind of rap. They'll do like the clips. They'll do a bar, and then they'll be done. They'll do another bar, and they're done. Like not knocking anyone for doing that, but like I'm really old school in the way that I think like you just need to be able to like do it all. Maybe if you do the verse like in 1 or 2 parts, that's one thing, but like you definitely need to have that base of like, I got this all down. 100%.
Like I think anything that you want to do, or anything that expresses you, anything that you're putting your heart into, you have to be organic with that and let that grow or shrink whenever it's supposed to. And I think that you just kind of gotta let your sound be whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's inarguable that the best sound is the honest and what comes from you.
I think that when you tapping into that when it can kind of be a conduit just directly to however it is you're feeling about life, is whatever comes out of that process is always something special for sure.
Hell yeah. Oh, well, hey, man, what you do is really special, so it's awesome.
Appreciate that.
That's awesome. No, I mean, really, like, I know I'm kind of, like, you know, giving you a lot of spotlight here, but, like, I remember, like, when I was first discovering people in the area, I was like, damn, this guy, like, he really has something.
And you're on episode 79, so you just, like, I want to talk to you about that and what that's been like, but yeah.
Hell yeah. But
once we get there.
Yeah, you're good. First, though, I'm curious, what's your writing process? Like, do you write everything out? Do you freestyle?
See, look, you were asking the right questions, because this is something I've honestly been not struggling with, but kind of juggling with more. So the music that is out right now, do you listen to me on SoundCloud and Spotify?
You know, it's funny. I actually just discovered you on SoundCloud today.
There's a few extra songs on the SoundCloud, so you can look at that and see kind of what those are like. But mostly for what's on Spotify and what's on SoundCloud, it would be finding a beat that I liked. Usually it's like a spark of inspiration where you get like the first lines, and then from there just kind of painting out the rest of that picture is, I guess, how I look at it. So the process was usually on my iPhone, a mixture of typing words and like speaking it into it so I'd remember how it sounds.
Okay.
And then going to the studio and doing that. I was able to get good at that process. So like when I was working with this producer, Gorilla, shout out Gorilla, he's out in California right now, but he was living in Ames recently. He's someone you should definitely connect with. We'll talk.
Hell yeah.
But we kind of got into a rhythm where he made fire beats, and he would just go through and pick one of his hundreds of beats, put it on, and you know, I get a little like it just takes like the whisper of a song, and then from there it kind of opens up and you're able to mess around with it. So I was able to kind of get to a point where in like an hour, like we could have a song, we'd go through, do one part. But recently I've been recording with my man Jofe, not Street Mike anymore, just a Jofe. He's down in Des Moines. Gotta connect. He's here in Des Moines. Yeah, you gotta connect with him. He lives in West Des Moines specifically. But he really encouraged me to trust that organic sound and to really stress less on what the output is like, and really focus on being in the moment with the microphone and just letting that flow be. And so I have been experimenting with freestyles, and so I actually have a song dropping on August 20th called Centipede that was a freestyle. So it is I found like some loops I liked, put it together, produced the beat with, and then a Joe Faye came through and added some much harder drums, and we recorded it. I recorded it in my place, and then he mixed and mastered it, and it's really like you can hear. It's really music that kind of lives on its own. I'd say it's like it feels organic. It kind of it's messier. I guess it has room to be messier. Like the bars aren't as tight. There's parts where you might even catch like a slip up or an extra breath or something like that. But I think I really just wanted to be more transparent in the way that I guess what it's like to have a conversation with me. I think that I've started to kind of be less like, oh, here I am, I'm rapping now, let me do this and this and this, and more just like, hey, my name's K.U.B or Caleb. That's what my given name is, and like this is what I'm about, this is what I'm seeing. So kind of making it a bit more conversational.
Hell yeah. No, I think like doing it that free form, authentic way is the way to go. And I think a lot of people get scared, like kind of we were talking before, like clipping. Yeah. Like people get scared of that, and like they're not able to realize that they're probably gonna sound like crap for a couple of years.
And it's definitely like, especially when you have like a song and you've gone through the work and you prepared it and you've gotten the bars how you want them. It's definitely like you're gonna go through and there'll be parts where you can cut and you can stop and edit, but a lot, you can tell when people are like on the same flow and they're punching in sometimes, and that's sometimes when it can be more of a hassle. But
yeah, it's one of my pet peeves with Juice WRLD. Great,
oh man,
great artist. Yeah. Rest in peace. But like you hear a song and you can tell they clipped.
Man, but the thing though is that he was freestyling. Like he would even like they were punching in, but it is I definitely look at like any type of editing process like it's just a paintbrush. So just like Picasso could paint how he paints, and Dali, or if Dali painted, or Frida's painting how she painted, like they're still doing their own thing. I think the Juice, he would freestyle. He would just like he would punch in. That's how Lil Wayne records too, where he goes like true. He just punches in and he'll do like a couple bars and then he'll stop and he'll go just pull it back. And so that's really some of the guys who really like, they can pull out any type of heat at any point.
Yeah.
And that's a whole different type of ability. When you can like make chart toppers just in your hotel room, like off the top of your head, that's a different type of insight and ability. And Juice was definitely successfully one of the best to showcase that style.
Yeah, no, and no shade on Juice. Like what he did was groundbreaking, and like he really redefined the game his own way. And like what you said, like in terms of like what that kind of method is, like he really is like the best, arguably.
And that method is
it's legit.
It's talent and practice that can get you there, because that is not something you can replicate. No,
and well, that's kind of the thing about it too, is like you think about like rock bands like Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, they did all their stuff in that method, so it's not really that far of a stretch. It's like jazz versus rock,
exactly, because it's unrehearsed, like you're and like you said, jazz is a great comparison where jazz, where musicians, they might all start at the same place and they might end at the same place, but in the middle they're going all over the place, and that's part of like the dance that does take place. So I think that hip hop being an outpouring of that culture, and a continuation, if you connect the dots to everything leads back to jazz. So I feel like we'll see a lot more kind of experimentation in freeform music, and I think a lot of people we'll break out of the intro verse, chorus, verse, hook, bridge, hook. Like, I think there's going to be more creativity in how songs are structured.
Well, people like Ken Lamar and J. Cole, like they kind of step outside those, like Kendrick especially, like he'll just go for however long it doesn't even, like, so I think that is, that is coming to fruition.
I agree.
Personally, talking about the jazz, every time I make beats, I always use jazz records. Like I always find the best samples for that. There's always, and that's another great thing about Ken Lamar is like jazz is a huge part of his music. Yeah, no,
you can hear Kendrick's production really living in there. Everything that Ali does out there, and the entire TDE family that works to put those sounds together. But Kendrick has definitely showcased how you can talk about what's happening, but really pay homage in the music itself, like the samples that he's choosing and the way that he's using them in the songs, and really should bring attention on those, especially like black musicians and black people in the community who came before and who paved the way for him to be where he's at, and for us to be at this table talking about it, and just understanding like jazz especially, like that's one of the US's greatest exports. Like jazz literally took this country through the 20s up till like and it was an economic engine, and it was an engine especially of empowerment for black musicians who didn't have those opportunities in other places, and it's something that has was built by black people. And so I think that hip hop has kind of been a continuation of that black ethos of musicality and the music that does live in the culture. And I love how Kendrick does it and how he gets Pulitzers for it. Like that's crazy.
Fuck yeah. What do you think Ken Lamar is doing right now? Do you think he is grinding on a new album, or do you think he's taking a little hiatus? I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
I think he's probably doing both. If he is on hiatus, then it's probably it's part of the process for making an album. You got to rest.
Yeah. I wouldn't criticize him for that at all.
Yeah,
he's great.
And even not resting, I'm sure like Kendrick could go to Kendrick. I can't imagine how many albums he has.
Oh, just
that he could, and not even stored, probably like record, mixed, and mastered. That he could. I would assume like I wouldn't even assume, but eventually with someone of his caliber and at his point in his career, he's got thousands. I would assume he'd have to have thousands of songs recorded and ready, and so it's just a matter of what he wants to say right now. And I think that I trust his process. So if he wanted to say something right now, he definitely would. I think he's probably making investments right now. He's probably making a lot of moves. I hope he's making, buying back blocks. I hope that he's making international moves and really stretching himself and TDE and his own like legacy as far as it can be in whatever way that looks like. I hope he's resting too.
Yeah. Well, he did so much in that span of like 5 years, 2012, 2017.
Yeah,
fucking deserves it.
Yeah, no, he deserves it.
It's kind of like Mac Miller. He still has stuff coming. I was on YouTube today, and there was like another Mac Miller song that just came out.
These estates can live forever. Like this music can live forever. Now that you add like NFTs into the mix, and now people can own someone's song. You could literally own a digital version of a Kendrick Lamar song. How much could that go for? Like, there's whole new frontiers of money being made in this culture, specifically with music in mind, and people like Mac, people like Kendrick, who have put in all they have just tons of songs, and they're as high quality as the other ones. There's such a big system for deciding what gets released and what gets approved and what samples get cleared that a lot of fire songs are still in the vault. And so I think that as artists keep finding, there's newer and newer opportunities for artists to cash in on that. That music is gonna keep on coming. Probably new Lil Peep songs, probably new XXX songs.
Do you think the NFTs is gonna be like Bitcoin? Like, if there's gonna be like a graph and people are gonna be like charting it, like how much is the NFT? Like,
yes.
I mean, it's how many different songs are they putting out?
Yeah, no, 100%. There's already like major art houses that have done like giant NFT sales for millions. I want to say they cracked hundreds of millions for that Beeple NFT, but it is. Yeah, it's just going to be another addition to the fine art canon or the art canon. So just like you would pay however much for a Picasso, you pay as much, that much for a Kendrick Lamar. So whatever tools there are to track those prices, I think will just be applied to NFTs, because it's just it's still culture, it's still art. Just like a painting, like it only has value because we say it has. Otherwise, what is it? And so it's the same way with digital things. And I think that as like virtual technology gets realer and you can like hold your NFT in your hand in like a virtual world, I think that they're definitely here to stay, and that I think that money is going to keep going up.
That's an interesting perspective.
Oh yeah, no, I released some NFTs recently. Actually.
Oh really? No way.
Yes. So I have the Lonely Grave NFTs are available at lonelygrave.com. So check that out.
We gotta get on that, Molly. NFTs.
That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to learn myself. But people like I follow people on Twitter who literally blew up overnight and made millions of dollars off of digital drawing. And so it's like there's money to be made right now. And so I only see that increasing. Yeah.
It's interesting. You talk about the value of art. Have you heard of Banksy?
Of course, yeah.
Did you see his recent look that up, Molly, please. I'm sorry, I tried to ask nicely this time. Banksy, it's the one that like destroyed. Like they bought it and it like shredded in front of their eyes.
Oh wow.
You haven't seen this?
I have not seen this.
This shit's insane.
So they bought this.
So somebody spent like millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Click that. Let's watch. What?
3 years ago.
Oh yeah.
For a record $1.4 million. Did the picture start to slip out of its frame into shreds?
How much did they say? 15 million?
The anonymous artist claims to be behind the stunt.
1.4 million.
On Instagram, he posted a photo of his prank with the caption,
"Anarchy, man.
Complete
anarchy.
Gone."
Right.
In a later post, he
at least partial anarchy, because Banksy still did all right after that.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, he's still got shit.
The money still came. That's awesome though. Yeah, I like that kind of idea.
That's hilarious. Oh my god.
That really helps to show, like, yeah, who cares? That's cool.
Well, yeah, I guess that was before NFTs, huh?
Yeah, well, that was 2018. That's before we were talking about them. But by that time, the company like OpenSeas, I think, was going by then.
Oh,
like
really?
some of the companies behind that have helped to bring them about were going. It's just that it took a lot of time for it to reach this crest that it's been at recently.
Huh.
Especially as the cryptocurrency has continued to and like cryptocurrency.
Are you into that?
I am very aware now of the fact that like people were telling me in high school about like, hey, like I knew this one person in particular who started mining, I think when he was in high school, and like a very business oriented individual and someone who was way ahead of these curves. So like once I started seeing it on the news, of course I was like, wow, like you guys are crazy, but you're not crazy. Like you're just very on cue. And so I think that because I've just some of that validation of like, okay, things are going digital. Like we're not crazy. Like pictures are already dead. Like we're like a video only culture now. We all have super high powered cameras in our hands at all times. Like it's a digital time, and I think that I think a lot of people are kind of scared of what that might look like, but I think
it's unpredictable. That's the problem.
Yeah, it 100%. But that's why it's cool. Also, I just try to surround I wouldn't say I'm a cryptocurrency person yet, but I'm trying to be around more cryptocurrency people so I can better understand it.
I am looking forward to, or looking into it as well. I spent $5 on Bitcoin as a little bit of a bet.
Good
Not
job.
even really a bet, just to say fuck
Wait,
you.
when did you do that?
I did that like a week ago.
Oh man, I'm telling you.
Molly paid me back for a coffee, and I was like, no, don't pay me back, and she did anyway. So I was like, fine, I'll spend it on Bitcoin. So that's what I did.
Yeah.
I got like 9/10,000ths of a Bitcoin.
Hey, I'm telling you, I had put some in 2017, and I made like a couple hundred. And
wow, really?
If I had kept it there, like Bitcoin more than doubled since then. Like I bought it. It was like I had a little bit when it was like 9,000 a coin. Maybe I'd have to check the dates to make sure that was right. And just like it's at like 60 today, or no, it's in like the 30s or 40s today. Not to, but it had peaked, and it's going back up. If you look at how the coin is, how the market's capped
by the dip.
Yes, and especially with this craze, the way that people have gotten it, the people who had it 3 years ago, and I've been steadily amassing it, like whole new waves of millionaires coming up off of Bitcoin and all those other ones too. Ethereum, like and with NFTs, those are on the Ethereum blockchain. So the fact that, at least for, I'm sure that there's a lot of other ones tied as well, but for like a lot of the major sites, you buy NFTs in Ethereum, and so as NFTs grow in popularity, you would assume that using Ethereum will have more and more uses as well. So it's people are crazy, man. People be doing all kinds of stuff. Yeah,
well, this is kind of technical, but it makes sense because the U.S. dollar is dropping. The value of that is just. Everything that's happened this year with inflations and the stimulus check, I mean, the value is just tanking.
Yeah.
So it's not a crazy idea to, right now, while your money's still worth something, to put it into something that's going to be actually worth something in the future.
And something more just centralized, or at least differently centralized. Maybe, I'm sure that we'll see a lot of different forms of, there'll be counteractions as well, but well, it's interesting because it's global too. Exactly.
The market is encompassed by the entire planet.
It is a stateless currency, which is it's a new. It's more like gold and silver in those ways.
It's a good analogy. It's a new frontier. Definitely
100%.
It's going to be interesting to see what I think it's going to be like in the next 5-10 years we're going to really figure out it's kind of in this phase. You think back to times like the gold rush, things like that, where things were really uncertain. Like I feel like that's kind of what is Bitcoin right now. It's just uncertain, but there's a really good chance, or at least a decently good chance that it could
No, I think in 4 years by
4 years it's already done so much in the last year.
No, definitely.
Here, going back to the music, you said do you do loop producing yourself? Like, do you make beats, or?
That's the direction I'm headed, but I don't like crank out beats at this stage. No.
Where do you use them?
It's been a lot of for what I have released. It's just been like people in the area, especially like.
Okay.
I've been working on some stuff, like I said, with the Joe in Des Moines. Then my dude Gorilla in Ames was always put
Say
together.
Ames?
Yeah.
Like Brandon?
No.
Oh, different names. Damn.
Gorilla, who lives in Ames, the town. Yeah.
Wow.
No, he's always supplied fire. Some of the SoundCloud stuff is YouTube beats, but moving forward, I think I'm trying to have a better just understanding of music, and so and kind of structuring a whole sound, you know, versus I was always focused just on the lyrics before, just because that was more my interest, but I'm trying to understand better the entire soundscape. So you'll hear some more, you know, co-produced beats by me moving forward for sure. And the one was dropping on the 20th was produced by me and Joe Faye. Awesome.
Well, I don't know if you have a dog yet, but I definitely recommend Ableton. It's expensive, but, you know, and this is always kind of the debate. We have people come on here, they love FL Studio, and they'll die by FL Studio. I don't know, it's all right. Like, I started on it too, it's good, but I definitely recommend Ableton. You can get one of those little MIDI.
Yeah.
Because, like, the program is astronomically expensive.
Yeah.
But you get that keyboard and you get the basic version. There's so many workarounds around that. Like, I've been using that for years. I've never upgraded, and, you know, I have pretty good sounds, you know, not trying to brag.
I heard that, yeah.
But, you know, so, yeah, I definitely recommend that, Ableton.
Okay, fire, I appreciate that.
Yeah. What about performing? Have you gotten a chance to perform at all?
Oh, yeah. I've been performing on and off since high school, so we started doing, like, we helped, or in our school, student council put on these coffee houses, which would be, like, every quarter of the school year, people could skip their lunch and they would go to the media center or the auditorium, and it would be an open mic, so people could sign up and perform. And so that was like some of my first tastes of, like, well, actually I first performed with my dad. So my dad's a percussionist, and he would do these djembe hand drum presentations, and so I performed with him in one of those. It was like my very first performance experience. But as far as like lyrics and music, high school, there's this little place in named Zeke's in Ames. I think they sold and are no longer Zeke's, but it was the space that had an open mic that I performed at. And I lived in Des Moines a few years ago and would perform at a lot of the poetry open mics or the Java Joe's Poetry Slam. I performed at Lenny Bell's poetry event at Lefty's. I forget what that's called, Lenny. Des Moines Brew did some open mics I performed at. I was supposed to perform at Cluster Funk, man. The Cluster Funk Festival got canceled because of COVID, but I was gonna have my first festival.
So was that what that interview was for?
Yeah, that's what that was. That's
That's such a fucking bummer, man.
That was literally. I have this whole interview, and it's just like a sad. It's not the interview is awesome, but it was a run up to an event that unfortunately wasn't able to happen. So hopefully Cluster Funk comes back in the near future, and maybe we can run it back. But I've had some performance opportunities, and mostly in Iowa. I performed in Kansas City once. I performed in over there with Ames, like in Rock Island, Illinois, but mostly just here in Des Moines.
Do you get nervous when you perform at all, or how do you handle all that?
So for me, like, I was growing up, I was always pretty shy, and it was kind of hard for me to talk to people. Same. It's kind of one of the things that pushed me to music in the first place, because it's like hard time talking to people, but I can talk to this notebook or I can talk to this microphone and still kind of put out what I'm trying to feel or what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Yeah. It's like a coping mechanism almost.
Yeah, 100%, and a way to process things.
I can relate.
100%. And so I did kind of have to, I would be very nervous early on. I've really gotten a lot more relaxed, but it's still always like a quick little shock of nerves, at least a quick nerve, depending on the opportunity. I definitely would be lying if I said that I'm just like 100% relaxed every time. But with practice, I've been able to, tell myself, like, look, you're just finna go up there, you're finna do these songs, talk to these people real quick. And I really do love like connecting with people. I love coming together for a show and like just the energy that is in a room. And so I'm excited to have more opportunities to rock some stages. But it is always a bit nervous at first. I'm like, that's definitely the truth.
Hell yeah. I mean, I've had social anxiety my whole life and all that, so I can totally relate to that. You have skill and you've done enough, so you probably are a little more comfortable when you start. But I feel like, sorry, my fucking voice. I feel like when you first start, you get that awe look, from the entire crowd, and that can really like.
That's funny you say that. So me and my cousin have performed. We were performing like a high school talent show, and we were doing the song together. It was a back and forth where he'd do a verse or he'd do a line, and I'd do a line, and he'd do a line. It was like it was this cool song. And so, like, one of my friends, someone I knew, was in the stands, and I looked at them and like completely lost my train of thought. And he's looking at me because it's my turn to like deliver my line, to say my piece, and I like mumbled some type of something and like totally messed it up. And I don't think anyone caught it, but it was like, yeah, I learned that stares can really get you thrown off. So I'm much better now at kind of going like, I close my eyes a lot or just kind of go somewhere else. I understood like why musicians wear glasses so much, or like why people just be up on stage with their eyes closed, because it's like you're trying to go to where that song is. The song kind of lives in its own place, and it can be hard to get there sometimes. So
I truly feel like a maniac when I'm on stage, because I just like I feel like I'm like, you know, when like you're practicing in your room. Like, I feel like that exact same way. Like,
that same energy. It's like, oh, y'all gave me the mic.
Yeah, right. Like, I feel like when I'm performing, the entire time I'm just trying to fight off like the fact that everybody's around me. So I almost like ignore it.
Go back. Yeah, I felt that. I think that it is like, obviously, like when you're playing off of people's energy and they're feeding you energy, you're able to do different things with the music than what you would be able to by yourself. So it's definitely like, it's awesome. I'd love to. Yeah, do like a festival, like a Lollapalooza or something like that. Just to have like that experience of people just like dun, 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 in step like that.
That would be the true experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember, you know, and energy has so much to do with, you know, performing. Have you heard of Flatbush Zombies?
Of course, yeah.
They were here, I think, in 2016. Did you go?
I did not go.
Okay.
I knew some people that went.
Good.
It didn't go well.
Well, okay. So for me, so I had a friend there. And he was tripping on Molly in the middle of the thing, and he was like, I couldn't get a hold of him the whole time. And then like toward the end, he was like, "Hey, come meet me in the middle." And like, I tried to go meet him, and because it was just a sea of like white teenage kids. I was like,
right. We do live in Iowa,
so and you could tell like when Flatbush was on, they just were not feeling it. They're like, "Fuck this."
Damn. That's bogus as hell. Like, how you gonna have Flatbush Zombies here and y'all don't even feel it?
Yeah, but these fucking dumbass kids, they were like pushing me out of the way. They were like giving like, no, you can't come in. Like, fuck you, I'm out here.
Right. I feel like a lot of people here they just don't go to shows often. They don't know like show etiquette. Yeah.
Well, and you know, hip hop, you know, it's kind of a new for most of the population of Iowa. I feel like that's a very different.
Yeah, no, they you know, hip hop's definitely been king in the culture, driving the culture, top of the culture for a long time. But as far as the entire cultural elements of hip hop, that's not here. Like, people know the music here, but they don't know about the breakdancing. They don't know about the spray painting. They don't know about the other aspects that make hip hop what it is, and so they don't have respect for the whole culture. They just they like their songs and they like to get lit. But you know, there's people, of course, who don't fall into that. But I think that's been observations I've seen. It's just like if you understood more like what the music's saying and what's going on, and then I think the people would approach it differently.
Yeah, you know, I think I see what you're saying with that, but I think also
I'm sorry, guy.
Yeah. Like, Iowa has its own culture almost.
For sure.
You know, and that's a hard thing to fight against. But if that culture could somehow change into, you know, what people around here are trying to do with hip hop, I mean, that could be a really beautiful, special thing.
No, this place could be like, it could be such an organic type of launching pad for artists, because people here are very accepting in a way of like, they'll let you get on stage and like there's opportunities for that.
Everybody's humble.
Yeah, and like they don't really know what it looks like, so they're cool with whatever, at least for one time. I think that it's a question of like, are there the steps to take an artist from, okay, I'm running around doing open mics, now what? Like, how do I move that? And I think that what Toby Parks is doing with XBK, that's a venue over there by off University Avenue, over by the Drake campus, that opened up in the last 2 years, I want to say. Maybe more recently than that, but they've really done a lot of work of like weathering COVID and then like developing artists and local artists. So people like EP, Emmett Phillips with No Power or Free Power, not No Power, Free Power.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, he's the one, and DK.
DK, yeah, I know DK.
And Davis, definitely Andre Davis a lot, and Entre Lucci. Those are some artists who I believe have worked with XBK, kind of more in depth on like structuring like a career and like being professional with the music and actually having a scene, because like an artist needs a scene and needs people consuming the art and buying back into it for them to be able to turn what they love to do into something that's sustainable. Because otherwise, if you're just the artist out here paying for studio time and paying for promotion and paying to push your songs and all that, like you're not gonna do that unless you have a very thick bank. And so I think that there's some elements in Des Moines that are trying to come together to make it more of like a music city where artists, because artists like Slipknot can make it and be international successes.
Yeah, no, I always kind of look up to Slipknot in a way.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people do.
You kind of have to. There's not that many options of like, artists to look up to.
Well, them and Ashton Kutcher, you know.
Simon Estes, definitely Simon Estes.
Fucking Slipknot, man. Have you ever seen Slipknot?
I have not. I know they're coming. Knotfest is coming to Indianola this year.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yes.
I saw them live in South Dakota when I was in college.
How was that?
It was insane, man. I literally thought I was gonna die at one point. You know, those mosh pits, man. I saw people get arrested. You know, people throwing up beer. It's fucking crazy. I was at the show and there was this chick in front of me, and I swear to God, she started grinding on me, and I was just like, what the fuck? And I just started going with it, and then she's like, ah! And I'm like, oh no, just total miscommunication. And her boyfriend was there and shit. I was like, oh, okay, whoa, like, hey, whoa, my bad. I'm just gonna go back here and let you. No conflict for me.
This was in the pre-Molly days.
Yeah.
I got you.
No, I've never fucking Molly. No, I couldn't do that, man. Like, there's the whole, your mood like goes to shit, essentially, from what I've heard. Like that drug specifically. So I've always stayed away from Molly.
Got you.
I mean, do whatever you want, but So you said you had another album releasing, or what was it?
Just a single, actually.
Single releasing?
Called Centipede, yeah.
Yeah. Do you have like other projects in the mix coming up, or?
So, I do have more things I'm working on with the Jofe. More singles kind of coming after that. I'm really looking to kind of build up a collection of music from now, because I've gone through a lot of like personal changes in the last like 2 years from when a lot of the music that's out right now to now. And so those changes have kind of really changed the way I approach music. And really, I think there was definitely a time when I was really using music as a way, like you said, like a coping mechanism, but putting just way too much kind of weight on that to like solve my problems. Like if I just write this perfect song, I'm gonna feel so much better type thing. But, you know, true like care and healing takes, you know, there's a lot of steps to that. So I think as I've kind of been able to grow a bit as a person and approach some of those other steps better, I've been able to kind of just loosen up with music. I feel like I like to freestyle now, and I like to just like put on a beat that makes me feel good and talk over it. And those changes are reflected in the new music that's coming out on the 20th and following. So it's been exciting to kind of see how my sound has grown as I've grown. You know, I think it's kind of big-headed to talk about talk about my sound, but that's what I've noticed.
No, well, and you know, kind of going back to what we were talking about with like, you know, that raw, those early stages. I mean, that's a big part of that is finding your sound.
100%,
like,
yeah.
You know, Old Dirty Bastard, you fuck with him. He's a huge inspiration of mine, like just raw as fuck. Like, does like kind of what you're saying before, does not give a fuck about how he sounds. Or there's I was listening to one of the members of Wu-Tang Clan, Method Man, talking about ODB and like how on his album he used the same verse like 3 different times. It's just like, but like he does it in a way that's so different every time that people didn't even realize.
I like that a lot. That's stupid. That's actually stupid. I think that like that just shows a lot of artistry. An artist who, I guess that story kind of reminds me of someone who I feel might do that same thing, would be like Vince Staples. I like how he's always just fucking around with like he's damn near a prankster, but the shit he's making is so intense and so like visceral. It's fire.
Vince is something else, man.
Most definitely.
He's crazy.
Yeah.
That last album he put out was really, or well, I guess it was kind of more of an EP. It was like 20 minutes, but that was really impressive.
Prima Donna, or is he?
No, he did. He put out a self-titled
Vince,
one.
aren't I?
What was that?
Yeah, I said I'm behind on Vince, aren't I?
Well, yeah, he just put this out. Yeah, it's just like a self-titled. He's got a couple.
Oh snap! Yeah.
You know, it's kind of interesting. All these artists have come out with all this. Like, you can tell it's just like it was their COVID project.
Right.
You know what I mean?
yeah.
You know, Isaiah Rashad.
Rashad, yeah.
Rashad, yeah.
He goes crazy.
Yeah, J. Cole. You know, ton of guys.
Yeah.
Put out stuff. So you have what? We had a guest on the other day, and he was kind of talking about how he's kind of making the move towards Spotify. Do you have any thoughts on, like, you know, because you have music on kind of both platforms, you kind of put more in SoundCloud. Do you have like a thought on like where those platforms are going or anything like that?
Most definitely. So, the biggest thing is like now to get, honestly, TikTok's like the biggest music platform now. So, like, life moves at the speed of technology, so you have to be able to understand like how each of those tools can benefit. So I guess the way I kind of look at it, SoundCloud, because SoundCloud you can put up a lot more. There's like loose things. You're not going to get copyrighted on SoundCloud because it's a free platform. Yeah. So you can. I like to put stuff there that like wouldn't make the final cut type of things. More like rougher projects or maybe some things I produce, but you don't have any. Like, yeah, SoundCloud is a place where you can like kind of really feed the people who are really paying attention. I guess I would look at it. Spotify is where like that's a song where it's actually like I'd love for the song to get placed in a commercial or in a movie. So it's completely mixed and mastered to that specification and that professional level. People can post it on their Instagram story, and now like that's one of the only ways to have your song like in a legitimate, you know, space. And to be able to generate revenue off of that, even though it is, you know, a tiny sliver, especially if you're not getting all your publishing straight. But artists definitely need to have their music everywhere. Like, people expect to find it everywhere. Like, I can find Kendrick Lamar everywhere. I think it's on SoundCloud, right? Artists, yeah, it's definitely if you're trying to like make money off of music and you're trying to make it be like this is something that I'm really doing, then everywhere. SoundCloud is a great spot to learn what it's like to like plan a release, to structure a release, and to start putting out things to your fans. But you would then keep growing. And if you got signed with a label, they would put your music everywhere. So we have those tools now as artists available at our fingertips. So it's important to take advantage of that.
Yeah. What do you think about that TikTok? I feel like
TikTok, man.
I feel like I'm fucked. Like honestly, when it comes to TikTok.
Why
like
do you feel that way? What's wrong?
Well, I don't know. I feel like I don't understand. I watch TikTok because Molly loves TikTok. She's like obsessed with it. She sends me TikToks like 20 times a fucking day.
It really just depends on the TikTok you're following. There's some.
That's true.
Like it's just not. Yeah, there's some great TikToks.
I don't know. I feel like I'm missing out. Whatever that is, where people are like hit the like. You know, I'm missing out on that. I don't know.
I hear that. Were you into Vine when it was here?
No.
I wasn't either. But I think that it's for one, like our attention spans are at that level. Like that's a fact. But on top of that, it's like TikTok was designed for. It was designed for this. Like the algorithm works to feed you like exactly the type of content that you're looking for, individualized, because it's following your data. Like it knows you better than you know yourself, damn near. Yeah. And so it also was just the developers were clearly very intuitive in what they wanted to do by making it so interspersed with music. Like you can. It's like a perfect platform to share dances and to share new songs and to watch it go viral like instantly. Like TikTok, there's this. You need to interview Nathan Apollo. He is from Iowa. He's a rapper. He has 220,000 followers on TikTok, and I knew him when he didn't have a TikTok. Like, and that was like a year ago. So it's like he's making legitimate money off of his music now because he has a TikTok following, and because he obviously not because he has a TikTok following, but because he put in the work. And then he was consistent with his TikTok and used that as a platform for his music to get out there. And people were able to find him, and his market was able to, get around him. So I think that the format, it's it's definitely like faster paced than I like, but I like it. It's fun to create on, and it is a tool that you can definitely, as an artist, you can whatever your art is. Like you see people doing painting, you do people doing baking, and I think something I like about TikTok is how like there's so much like there's a lot of honest discussions that take place. Like people post TikToks about very serious things, and really, I think that our generation, you know, we grew up in chat rooms and we grew up in some of the early phases of that, and now that those tools have become so much more powerful, we're able to leverage those for our own benefit. So I think that is definitely aimed for someone younger than myself. I feel probably younger than yourself, but that's the type of content that I think is gonna keep pushing like the culture. It's gonna get shorter and shorter and shorter.
Well, that, you know, that is kind of a benefit to TikTok over YouTube. Is it doesn't have the mass censorship problem that YouTube has. You know, however you feel about this, like you can, I feel like you can find varying, you know, things about COVID on TikTok, and you can't do that on YouTube. You can't do that on Facebook.
Oh,
like,
really?
I don't know. Maybe again, that's like the algorithm feeding you. But like like in topics related to that, I find in my feed things that would not be on those platforms. Yeah. So I mean, I guess by that metric alone, you can tell that there's, you know, at least a little more open discussion. For sure, I felt that. I know they've definitely had. I think they definitely have their censorship too, but people have been really creative about how to get around it. Yeah, they don't like they don't like weed. They don't like sex. And like half the time, it kind of depends on the person. Sometimes they let it slide. You know? Well, that's kind of the weird thing about what did TikTok start out as? What was the app? Musically. I remember when, you know, I remember every time I saw an ad for that, it was some fucking 16-year-old shaking her ass. It was like... No, definitely like the... Because, the dance videos is what you know it for. At least that's been one of the key things. And so... Yeah, it just people were all about visuals. Like, very visually stimulated. Yeah, I mean, I'm a pervert, so for me... Damn. It's a big on-air revelation. I hope that you can find the treatment for that. My audience isn't foreign to that. So I don't know. I find that shit all the time. It's just like, okay, whatever. Like, that's just why I think of TikTok. Gotcha, man. No, but like we've had Jake Trumper on here. He praises TikTok, and you know, it's interesting. It's an interesting platform. It's interesting that it has that kind of small time constraint in it, and it's like the you know, like you said, it's like focused content. Like you got to get to whatever your message is. You got this much time to say it. You know, maybe that's the problem, is because I have this podcast where I just like just keep this ramble. It's hard for me to like find that like, hey, like, subscribe. You know? Yeah, but that's the stuff that like we are like goldfish in that. So yeah, true. I think I saw on your Instagram that you paint. Is that true? I have been painting recently. I actually, so me and my good friend Siriaco, but he goes by the painter. It goes by Siriaco. We've been in 2019 and 2020, right before COVID hit. Actually, we'd started to organize some events, like specifically up in Ames, where it was live music and live painting, so people could come and paint on canvases, or we had like a painting competition. He's a visual artist, and so I've learned a lot more about painting from him. And then me and my girlfriend kind of turned to it recently during the lockdown as a way to express ourselves, and just to like, we'd go out by the lake and just paint something, and it was like a very restorative process. It's really cool to work on visuals versus just trying to like think about how something sounds. And so I'm actually doing I'm in an exhibit called Image and Text at the Octagon Art Center in Ames with Siriaco. So this exhibit was it's like visual representations of poetry, and so we took one of my poems and painted it, and then added Siriaco painted on the canvas and kind of brought it to life with visuals. And so it's this really cool exhibit that's going to be airing. I'm not sure. I think that starts in September, maybe not till October. But wow. I'll have some info about that on my Instagram too. That's fucking impressive, man. So you like just recently got into this, or is this something you've always done? I've never. Since high school, I really hadn't painted much. I painted
in one high school class and painted when I was young. So it's really more just I've been around visual artists like Siricasso, like Jordan Brooks with No Self, or like Jill Wells, like Akwi, Inji. So I think I've been able to learn from a lot of people who not actually learn like how to paint, but just like have conversations and see how like people who are more visual focused think. I think it's been really cool to be able to collaborate with them and learn more about their practices and understand like how it's a whole different way of expression and the benefits that can come from that too. So it's been fun to get into. I'm not like, I don't paint every day, or like, oh man, you need to interview Robert Moore, B. Moore. Are you familiar with his work? He's a painter. No. Oh man, he veritably blew up, as they say, but he's been very, he was recently able to quit his job. He was just out in LA where he had a show, from Des Moines, and it was like 2020, like the beginning of 2020, he was doing local shows with his paintings, and by that summer he was selling to collectors all over the country. Like his work was something that people really gravitated to, and the commentary he was providing on Black life that he's experienced was really something that resonated, like I said, with a lot of people, and he's been able to connect with a lot of people who really respect what he does and how he does it. And so he's another one, as far as artists in the Midwest and in Des Moines specifically, who's really killing it and finding brand new avenues for success outside of just being like a great artist. But now he's like a successful artist, and that's a different type of feeling, I would imagine, like for your family and for your position, because his pieces are beautiful and very raw and evocative. Kind of, I guess the instant comparisons people would make would probably be like Basquiat, where it's almost like childlike drawings, almost like but
like simplistic kind of.
That's kind of some of the pieces that I think first started gaining recognition, but now like he's also a fantastic portrait artist, and he just depicts Black life in these really beautiful and poignant and sometimes very painful ways. And I think he's doing I'm not sure if it's an exhibit or if he just has this piece called Out the Mud, where it's this beautiful black girl, and he literally layered, like, I think it's mud, I'm not sure what the actual material is, but it looks like mud on top of it, like on the bottom of this painting. So it's this multi-dimensional, like multimedia piece where it really, like, it's just powerful. Yeah, definitely look up B. Moore.
Hell yeah. Yeah, no, because I paint a little bit myself. It's definitely like a different mode.
Completely different.
I feel like I have to have like an image in my head, which when you're rapping, you don't really have. I don't know, maybe for you, but not for me, anyways. Like I don't really have like an image in my head.
Yeah,
it's definitely a different thing. What kind of materials do you use? You acrylic, like watercolor?
Acrylic.
Okay, yeah, that's acrylic. My medium too.
That's what acrylic with crusty set of brushes that I never wash out. So that's how I get my work done.
Oh gosh, I had an art teacher. She would dock our grade if we
didn't wash them right. See, art classes, man. My photography class was one of my lowest grades that semester in high school. Yeah.
The problem with the art classes in high school is like there's no middle ground between like the guy who just doesn't do anything and the person that is like really
everyone's in the same room. I think that offers like great opportunities for people who wouldn't consider themselves artists to find out.
That's
like,
true.
Hey,
that's a good point.
I like this. Like, this is cool, and it also poses problems for people who really like aren't invested, who really don't care, versus the people who are really trying to like invest and do something with that art.
Yeah. I don't know. Every art class I just remember it being chaotic. I remember there being like a very strong divide.
Right. No, 100%. A lot of people look at it as maybe more of a throw-off class, something that's
like a bullshit.
Yeah.
Pass it.
Yeah, but there's also, it definitely is a space where people can like I made a collage in high school that I can still keep with me that I thought was well made and I liked. So I think that I hope that people are at least able to get like one piece that's like, okay, like I can do some art stuff, and then maybe they never do anything artistic again. It's definitely a good like entrance point.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good for anyone to get a broad stroke of anything.
Yeah.
Like people who are artists. Like I think people who are artists should like go work in the field or some shit like that. You know, get some
more
experience.
Studios, man. There's got to be way more. I think studio access needs to go up dramatically. Even if there's like less art classes or different type of art classes, I think that kids especially should have access to those materials so they can experiment on their own time, you know, and sit and see how it is they like to express themselves.
Well, that's a really cool thing. You mentioned DK. That's a really cool thing. What they're doing is like you know, from what I've talked to him, he seems to, their whole goal with writing history is like create a, you know, community where people can kind of come in and, you know, do their thing artistically.
That is the beautiful vision. Does he have a location?
I think it's. I don't know if he has an official location. I know he's doing stuff around here. I know he did a mural.
Really?
Were we not supposed to talk about that?
I will find out about that in the future and ask him about it.
Well, but writing history does a lot. Pac-Man Drowned Hero.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the homie too.
Took me a second to put it together.
Yeah, no, all those guys. You know, there's so many people in this state that have such a unique vision, and it all seems, you know, majority-wise, from the people that I have on here, it seems to be around everyone and like including everyone, and kind of like what you said, you know.
I think that's something that, I agree with that 100%. I think that's something that, especially artists here, artists anywhere are going to be focused on that, and I think that people in Iowa have that as well, and I think that it's a question of the resources coming to support that vision and kind of put that into play to make that, because Des Moines could be like, if you really think about it, if you think about the impact that Prince had on Minneapolis and that Drake has on Toronto and that Nirvana had on had on Seattle, or what grunge had as a genre, like you really understand like one big artist coming out of a place can literally change the economic future of a place. And I think that if Des Moines is able to better invest in the artists that are here, not just like okay, well, let's build up our next superstar, but let's at least put out the fabric or the framework so that anyone who wants to be an artist and do that professionally, they can afford to live. Like they have opportunities to be professional in that and to get paid a living wage to do that, because a lot of people look at art as, you know, something you do in your own time, but
it's fun.
Yeah, which, you know, is always it's true. But in the U.S., everything has a price. In life, everything has a price, and the time that you put towards your art, you're not able to put towards work. You're not able to put towards things. So, if that art isn't making you anything back, sometimes you have to make that choice between, you know, am I going to work or am I going to work on my art? And if those could be the same thing, then that would lead to a lot more economic opportunities and would create the types of festivals and locations and outputs that can make a city a whole lot of money. Like, just a whole lot of cash.
Yeah. Well, you know, not to get into this too much, but, you know, it seems that people are leaving those, you know, big central cities like New York and LA. Yeah, and they're coming.
California had a decrease in population for the first time in its history.
Oh, okay. I didn't know
over the last year, something like that. At least the LA region. I think it was California in general. I feel like New York had similar story.
Well, both those cities are tanking right now.
Yeah, they've been going through it, and people are, especially as everything becomes more like decentralized and
online,
the internet. Like if you can work remotely, you don't have to be there anymore to still have access to those type of jobs that only exist in LA or in New York. And I think those cycles will probably continue, and maybe some of these smaller places like Des Moines could be more of a magnet to attract a lot of that growth.
Yeah, I think where a lot of people in Iowa are ahead of the game is they're not thinking of things in this, you know, structured way like LA and New York, where it's like, you know, this way, that way, this way, that way.
Yeah.
Like people are really doing things freeform, they're doing it their own way, and that's the kind of innovative energy that we need.
Yeah, that's definitely good. Like first you gotta have that spark, and then you have to feed that flame so it doesn't stay a spark. Because if you just let people do their own thing forever, there's never gonna be that cohesion. And so I think Des Moines just needs that organizational structure to. And like you said, I love how, because it's not written now, there's potential for it to be, and it could be beautiful, it could be great, it could be a place where artists are really able to be valued by the community is able to be valued by the artists, and it can be a beautiful kumbaya moment. We'll see if we get there, because they're out here burning it was like not a shrine, but it was like a marker of for
You talk about the black kids
black
thing?
children.
I did see that. Yeah, that was fucking awful,
who had
man.
gone missing, and it's like to burn that that's the community that we live in. Also, you know, like there's these great things happening, but the blowback for and what the community, you know, suffers and goes through, those two things can't go hand in hand. You can't grow if with those type of hateful things happening and not being addressed, you know. So I think that as some of the social justice questions are addressed, or at least like, yeah, and with that governor too, like, as that, like, things have to change politically to create this space as well. It can't, you know, it's not just going to be artists saying, okay, we just gotta do this and this and this. You know, there actually has to be the bones for it. Like in LA and in New York, they're able to pour into the arts because they know in New York, like, that's an art destination. There's museums, there's galleries, there's exhibits. You go to New York to go to Broadway. You go to New York to do something artistic, to go to a show at Madison Square Garden. And so they invest right back in it and they create those things. But I think, I'm not sure if to what extent that happens here. I know that there's some, like that Riverview Festival that's coming here.
Oh, I did. I think I heard about that.
I think that is. Actually, yeah, I think it's happening. But that looked like some of the biggest names I've seen coming here together to the morning. Like,
oh, you know what? I saw DK like a couple weeks ago, and he said that he's gonna be meeting a couple.
Wasn't he?
Yeah, I think that he mentioned that, but he's gonna be meeting like I think Earth Gang's gonna be there. He's gonna meet them. He's gonna meet a couple other people.
That's what I'm saying. Earth Gang's in the spot. Like Sudan Archives is gonna be there. Like, and especially for the way he makes music too. I feel like that would be a great connection for him to make.
Fuck yeah.
With Earth Gang.
It's kind of interesting what you said with like you know, having a balance. Like, you can't just be artists. Like, because you look at LA and New York, and I feel like that's a big reason why they're crumbling. It's like they don't really have that political base. It's kind of all, that whole thing is kind of, you know, fractured, you know, like Cuomo and all that, you know.
Yeah.
So I appreciate the sentiment. What you're saying is like that kind of all needs to be, like, if we really want to make a community, we also need to remember that.
Yeah, like, yeah, exactly. Like it's not like throwing weekly concerts or anything is not gonna fix deep social problems. Like, there has to be, to create this kind of nirvana moment, there's got to be a lot of steps taken.
Yeah, that's true. You know, that the whole thing with that, you know, that black kids thing getting burnt down, that was terrible. You know, however you feel about things, an extreme form of, you know, making a message like that is just not okay.
Yeah, like if you have a problem with expressing grief over lost children, then there is a deep problem with you. Like,
that has nothing to do with anything political.
Yeah,
you know?
that is not. Yeah, that's something else.
Yeah, I do have hope though. I mean, I don't know. I'm not an expert in any of this. And you know, I think there's a lot of deep-rooted bullshit. But I feel like the generation, you know, people our age, you know, are more collectively aware of that kind of stuff, and I think that is gonna improve.
Yeah, I think it definitely could. I think that in Iowa, it's also a lot of people who just don't really take action. I think that there's a lot of kind of standing around and staring at each other, like, well, you know, you gonna move or you gonna move?
People are also extremely ignorant.
Oh yeah,
like uneducated.
People here, like, people really, I think that people outside Iowa really just don't know about it because there's not many reasons to come to Iowa. If you're not from here, you don't have family here.
Yeah,
I mean, there's reasons, but there's not that many. And so I think that there's like a specific version of like just isolation that's taking place here, where like people here are very set in their ways, even though it's not as loud as like Alabama or Georgia, where like the culture, you hear about the culture, you hear about what some maybe people, especially in rural areas, may believe or not believe, and you're aware of that. But in Iowa, it's kind of, I think a lot of things aren't really spoken of still, like, straight on. A lot of things is more indirect.
Beat around the bush.
Yeah, and so I agree that I think awareness, and especially like the Black Lives Matter movement and what Jalen Cavell and what Matt have been doing has really, and everyone else involved in the movement, of course, and other movements similar to it, have been good at raising awareness of like what the actual issues, like some of the issues and what people are going through have been been like for decades, because I think that there's been new opportunities, new platforms in this past year, of course, for change. It's just a question of if like anyone was listening, you know.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a big problem. And that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, that's another podcast for sure.
But yeah, you know, I guess at the end of the day, all we can really do is just try to connect with people and just try to, you know, grow from within, because, you know,
connect with some people. There's definitely some people where it's more of like a fist connecting with them, but definitely connecting with the right people. Yes, and growing like political solidarity around like the issues that actually matter, and about like protecting lives and caring about people.
Yeah, not to get too deep into that, but I really wish people would focus more on what's happening in Iowa and what's happening in Des Moines and what's happening in their county.
Yeah.
I wish they wouldn't give a fuck about what's happening in DC, and maybe not give a fuck, but like it should be like minimal.
I know what you mean. Yeah, because like all those decisions that happen in DC are based on the local elections. They're based on who your county supervisor are, or who your governor is, who you elect to the House, who you elect to the Senate. So I definitely agree. Like people here and people everywhere, but people here need to know that their decisions do affect what's happening there, because we do live in a system where, you know, despite all the barriers that do exist in the voting system, you do have a vote. There's many countries where you don't have a guarantee of a fair election. Even here, you have to go through all these hurdles, but it's still more of a process you can be engaged in to some extent.
Do you ever wonder if, like, I don't know, this might be getting too deep, but do you ever wonder if, like, there are too many people in the country to, like, you know, have your voice really matter? Do you ever wonder that?
In the country? Hell no. No, I think that makes it easier for your voice to matter, because you can find a lot of people who have a very similar voice to you, and you can get together with them and y'all can increase your voice. Like there's, like if you're living in like Sweden and you had a much smaller population, you could say things, but the U.S. is like one of the largest countries in the world, and so I think that there's a lot of people here for sure, but that makes it just, I think like I said, it becomes a matter of connecting with more people who feel that way and doing something about it.
Yeah, well, and you know, I think connecting and communicating with people also kind of helps your own viewpoint. Yeah, you know, getting experience and you know, trying to figure out how you feel about things. I think bouncing ideas off people can really help that. There's always you talk about the echo chamber. There's always the guy in the basement who just like, you know.
Oh yeah.
He could think anything. He thinks the Holocaust didn't happen, you know.
Right. But yeah, 100%. Like, especially at a younger age, like being exposed to things it makes you not fearful of it. Like a lot of prejudices that exist against people of different races, against black people, against brown people, against people of different sexual identities than what culture wants to say is okay, then like they're scared of things that they don't know, and they react against it, and they sometimes react with violence. And so if you can start at a young age and have just exposure can be one step, and then also one step toward the process of like just gaining empathy. Like you gotta understand, like that's a person, I'm a person. It shouldn't have to go farther than that.
I think that's what people need to remember at the end of the day too, is that we're all human.
That's it. Like
we all fuck up. We all say stupid shit.
Right. Exactly. Everyone wants to just divide, but it's really just this one species of creature that we are.
Don't divide, multiply.
Exactly.
Hell yeah. You had in your bio on your Instagram, I saw you were part of a couple groups. Lonely Grove and
Lonely Grave, yeah.
Lonely Grave. Wow, yeah. I can't read my own handwriting. What does that have to do, or what do you all do with that? What's the goal with that organization, and what do you all do with that?
So Lonely Grave is a art consultancy. So it has been in 2017. I dropped out of Iowa State. I rejoined in 2020. So I now have another year and a half left, where I'm studying community and regional planning, so I can better understand like these community development pieces. Oh, okay,
cool. So what's your degree then?
So it would be community and regional planning. So it's in the College of Design. Okay. So it's people like people who are in charge of like city zoning and what can go where when it comes to building.
I see.
But I've been interested in kind of the idea of placemaking, which is a way of like using art and cultural resources to create place in space. So you think of like, do you know about like those in Madrid, those bridges that light up at night? Have you seen that in central Iowa?
Oh, in central. Did we go there?
Yes.
Okay, so that's an idea of placemaking. Like that's a place you can go to. It's a memorable experience, and it's public. Anyone can go there.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested about using art to strengthen communities. So Lonely Grave was when I had dropped out of school. That's a company I started in 2017. At the time, I was working with like some people who we released some clothes, and that was kind of the main focus at the time. But I always wanted it to be a place where people from communities could come and we could collaborate with to create whatever kind of artistic activation that could strengthen that community. So if it's like if a person or a community wants to know how they can get a mural on their wall, like we can offer that information. We could pair them with the artist to make it happen. Or if we want to do like a festival series or something that focuses on like local talent and helping to put that together. So it was really like me trying to decide what I wanted to do with my life and kind of putting a business to house those things. And so now now that I'm back in school and have more of the community focus, I'm learning more tools to be able to just work with artists and strengthen communities. And so Lonely Grave is what that is. It's lonelygrave.com. I guess as far as like what people could connect with today, lonelygrave.com is just a blog that I keep that shares some of the like music and things that I like. And then in the future it'll keep growing. But
so are you kind of waiting until everything kind of settles down with everything?
It's really more just making sure my vision is what I want it to be, and kind of taking it from there. I've really given myself space and time in the past years to make sure that I'm heading in directions that interest me and that I'm passionate about. And so Lonely Grave is kind of something I'm still putting a lot of the pieces behind. But
So what goes behind the name Lonely Grave? How'd you come up with that?
Yeah, so it was kind of this idea of like understanding that what a life alone could be. I think that I've but experienced just lots of feelings of loneliness. I think like when I was younger, feeling kind of isolated, and understanding how unhealthy that is and how like that's not the way to live. And so it's something that kind of just keeps me, as far as the name is something I just thought of that was something I didn't want to happen. Like I didn't want to live a life where I morbidly end up in this lonely grave just out where you don't really have this impact on people. People don't feel your presence. So I think it was a desire to build community, kind of looking at one of the worst things that could happen if you didn't build that community, and then naming it after that, and because I liked how it sounded.
That's interesting. It makes a lot more sense because when I heard Lonely Grave, I didn't really know what to think.
Yeah, and I like that a lot. I like that ambiguity, so that it can really, the focus can be more on what the output is.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like that's like every person's like worst nightmare, like not be able to make an impact.
For real, and I really like when I was at that in that space too. Like I was thinking a lot about just big like dark topics like that, and like what's my legacy gonna be, or like how am I ever gonna connect with people. And I think that kind of some of that perseveration, I think that's a word, just really focusing on one thing kind of squeezed me into some bigger ideas like that of like, cool, Lonely Grave, like here we go. I don't know.
I have an interesting philosophical question if you're game.
Yeah.
What do you think is the meaning to life?
Meaning to life?
If there is any.
It's a good question. As far as the meaning...
You want another water?
I'd love one, yes, thank you. I really think that the meaning is to experience it. I don't think that it gets much deeper than that.
I agree.
I think that it really is just to like... It's like, damn, I'm here on this spinning rock.
Yeah.
Like,
I think the only
what
meaning...
am I going to do?
Yeah. I think the only meaning you can find is the meaning that you you yourself give it.
Yeah, I think, so that freedom to like create, or even if it's just creating the way you're going to do things. I think so. I think so as well. I feel like it's I think that it changes shape along your life. I think that what the meaning to you is going to be different at different stages along your life. But yeah, I would agree that it's really hard to put anything definitive on that outside of like, I think, yeah, that's all I would say.
Well, hey, that's a very open-minded answer. I like it. Good job.
I usually just keep talking and then I don't even remember like what I originally meant to say. So
well, hey, you should start your own podcast. That's the stepping stone.
No, I'll be able to finally order my thoughts. Good idea.
I have so many. I guess not that many, but like you said, doing this for 79 episodes, there's so many fucking moments where I've had podcasts where I just ran for an hour about the stupidest shit.
Yeah.
What was it? I think the 5th episode I ever did, because Molly wasn't a part of the podcast yet. Okay. We were not even dating. We were just hanging out.
Okay.
But she came in that podcast and I was just shit faced. I had my sunglasses on. You could just tell I was fucked up.
Oh damn, that's tough.
And I was looking back and I was like, God damn, like even if I did a podcast today and I was fucked up, I would still do better than I did then.
Of course. There's stepping stones.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I encourage anyone to start a podcast.
Yeah.
There's a fucking million of them, and only like a third of them still do it. Anybody can do it. Get a laptop and get a microphone, make a podcast.
I appreciate that.
Joey Diaz does it off his phone.
Yeah. No, that's the plug right there. I think I might just do that.
Fuck yeah, man.
I'll have you on for sure.
And that's the true purpose of me trying to get people to start podcasts. So I can be their guest.
Create an empire. Podcast empire.
So I can stroke my own
so I can be their guest. I like that.
I'm trying to be the Joe Rogan of Des Moines.
Yeah, one step ahead of the game.
I have really thought about like, I mean, I don't have money, so this probably wouldn't happen anytime soon.
One day.
Yeah, one day.
This right. Yeah.
Yeah, but I really want to do like have like a podcast studio, like and like have like more like a network, like a Des Moines podcast network.
Look, let's go. Are there any or not any, but are there some podcasts in the area that you do connect with that are like
ongoing? Well, I don't really know about here locally in Des Moines, but Audible Farm. Confused Breakfast. Confused Breakfast is more of a movie podcast, but they've actually really blown up on TikTok. They're like in the hundreds of thousands for Ks. Awesome. They're crazy.
You should get on TikTok. Just real quick. I'm sure Molly could do it.
Well, I am on TikTok. I do have clips. But
okay, perfect.
I don't know. I don't ever hit a K.
No, that's not the metric. It's just consistency. Because eventually, something you didn't even plan would just go crazy.
That's true. We just had a podcast last week, and I don't know. I feel like every time we do a podcast, and I feel like it went terribly, it does really well. So I walked away from last week's podcast like this.
Did you have that effect, or this last one went?
Yeah, well, no. I mean, it went fine, but like I just walked away from it just thinking like, oh, I fucked up this way. Like it just didn't go this well. But like that episode was like we broke the record for live streams, and like we did a clip and like it blew up. It's just like I don't understand.
See what I'm saying? That is you're probably just being just so transparent and genuine, even though you thought you were fucking up.
Well, that's what I try to do, man. I think that's what you can always tell when a podcast is fake as fuck.
Yeah.
There might as well be a fucking teleprompter.
for sure. When there's like a goal people have, for sure.
Yeah. Well, but yeah, I mean, I think I am probably one of the, especially in terms of like having hip hop artists. I can't think of anybody else.
Yeah,
that's like really doing it this consistently. That's not even like me sucking my own dick. That's just
just like looking at what's here. Yeah, no, I think like podcast studio. That sounds like a very like a good idea. Especially if it's like a mobile thing you could bring to places and like
that's a good point.
Like what's up, y'all? Like we're meeting at this location this week. Bring your
get like a car or something.
Yeah,
get like a van.
Just have everybody. Yes, there's this one. I saw a podcast that.
Steve-O does that.
Does he? Goes
he has a little RV.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a lot of people doing it, but I think that like that could really, you could like record live on some like at sites of like festivals or anything like that. That would be fire.
That would be tight. The only problem is with everything is money.
No, but that's,
and podcasts don't make
see,
a lot of money.
But here's where I've thought these similar questions, and that is definitely where like maybe that's more of a community project. You know, like finding someone or finding an organization or that is trying to better their community and really packaging it in a way like think of all the growth like the way that like you could teach classes out, you could teach podcast classes, like there's so many ways you could really benefit the community and yourself. And
I don't know if anybody would pay for me to teach them a class. It's a fucking whack job up here.
You're gonna get there. Just maybe on like the 78 or this is the
79th episode.
Maybe on the 80th episode they'll start paying you for it.
Well, if I just, there are people that like do like the like Sam Harris, like he do like the entirely premium, like people like the only way you can listen to this podcast is pay for it. Like I could never envision myself doing that because I just know nobody would listen to it.
Oh, it's okay. No, see, but you got to give them that value so that they should give them something worth paying for. Like definitely, I feel like we've touched on some topics. It's been like people could grow from this. Like
fuck yeah,
100%. And if you care about yourself and you're willing to invest in that from the viewer's perspective, then they will support that.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Well, I think the thing with podcasts is that you have to at least hit triple digits for episodes. Like like I said, like how only a third of the podcasts that are made are still actively doing it. There's so many people that they're just not doing it. There's they put out 10 episodes and they're done.
Well, that already shaves the market down, so your competition just went way flatter.
Yeah. I don't have any like inspiring things to say about that. I'm just insane. That's
that can be a really good motivating factor because really like, especially like if you look at artists, like people will toil for years putting songs together, putting things together that they don't know anyone's going to care about, and then they just run into the right person or they have the right situation, and all of a sudden all that work they did is being monetized. And so it's definitely like views can come after success. They don't have to be the blueprint for success too.
Yeah. Well, interesting anecdote on that note. Mac Miller, I can't my fucking voice. When he put out the album Watching Movies at the Sound Off, he wrote like 100 tracks for that album.
Crazy.
And he whittled it down to 15, 16, however many it is.
See what I'm saying? That's why we could have Mac Miller albums for the rest of our lives dropping yearly.
Yeah. Well, the thing about the podcast, almost kind of a cheat for it. I mean, it's not, but it is. Like, you could have 80 episodes that are awful.
One of them's great, right? Yeah,
but that's
without those 80, and that good one would not come. So it's like, which way you want to get it?
Yeah. Well, and I think it's impossible to do something and get worse at it.
Yeah,
it's impossible.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
The worst case scenario are the same.
Yeah, that's facts.
So yeah, I think if anybody did 50 episodes of a podcast, they would at least be a half decent podcast.
100%. What are some of, just to flip this question back towards you, what are some of the elements in your eyes of what you would consider like a good podcast?
I think being genuine.
Yeah,
that's probably the biggest one.
That, yeah.
I think if you can tell someone's kind of faking it, it's just not a good podcast. Also, this is really heavily debated. I think podcasts should be long form. I think that's the method. There's certain people who, are here that do like the 15, 30-minute thing, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like that's kind of buying into the, like what we were talking about, like the quick
for sure
of like TikTok. I feel like podcast is a really special place. It's for the people who want to listen to 3 hours of people have a conversation, and kind of going into how media is and how things are edited and cut to favor things. Podcasts, if it's done right, it doesn't happen like that.
Yeah, I hear that. Okay, so
that, and also you have to have a good voice. You have to be interesting.
Sure.
They're, like I said, anyone can start a podcast. So there are people who just they could be so delusional and just think that they're amazing, and then it's like
right,
you're all right.
But by that 50th episode, we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, what was it? I had a guest. He will remain nameless. I guess I'll give him a pass. But he was like talking about like how I only do an episode every month because I have to really think and really go through this process, pick out the artists. Like, motherfucker, you're in Des Moines. Like, nobody gives a shit. just interview people. Like, you know, like we've had people on this show that, you know, they're gone. Like, they don't really have anything that interesting to bring to the table. But that's the trial process. There isn't really a way to determine
until you've done it.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
You have people that, you know, they have great music, but you get them down, they don't have shit to talk about.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see how, especially like thinking as like, okay, who am I going to interview? That's a different type of thought process.
Yeah.
Than, like, because conversations are something that we're able to avoid a lot more in life now. Like you can go like, you can go a lot of days without talking to anybody and get everything you need done. Like, I feel like maybe podcasts would be somewhere those conversations can live, like you said.
But like, you know, like going back to what I was saying before, like that's the frustrating thing for me is like when those podcasts aren't interesting, those seem to be the one that do the best, you know?
Yeah, I feel that. I feel you.
Damn it.
I feel that.
But you know, views don't matter.
Yeah, it's just a process of finding your community because it's the internet. So there's a billion people in there, a couple billion.
Yeah,
and so your market is out there. It's just like finding it, I think.
Yeah, well, and you know that it's good in a sense, but it's also in a way a disadvantage because I do focus on Des Moines, Iowa. Not necessarily Des Moines, like Iowa based. I have gone a little bit outside, but I really try to keep it in the Midwest at the very least. Yeah. And there, you know, I think that's a really good thing. I think we need more shows that do that, but 100%. At the same time, it is limiting in a sense.
No, I felt that 100%. And there's, man, you need to. Do you watch Black with No Cream? Have you seen that one? No. So that is. Oh damn! What's his name? Ben. I think his name is Ben. But Black with No Cream is a podcast. This he's actually he does a lot of video content. It's kind of his main thing. Okay. But he's from Iowa. I think Cedar Falls, I want to say. And he in the last 4 or 5 years. He moved out to LA and became Jay-Z and Beyonce's behind the scenes videographer. So he was with them on the Run tour. Jesus. Like, he's from Iowa. Like, there are people here who be doing their thing, and his podcast is, he's out in LA, so he has that different type of access where he's bringing in people who are like full-time, do type of jobs like him. They're in the creative industry, and he talks about how you can like maintain a living off of this and how you can really, really leverage your passion and turn it into something that's productive in that way as well. So I was definitely like, there's a treasure trove here for once you're able to dig and find those pieces for sure.
Yeah, the challenge seems to be bringing the spotlight to here.
Yeah, and that type of thing is like, it's gonna be hard to do because, well, maybe not hard to do, but that requires, I feel, more like buy-in from Des Moines as a whole, you know, because LA, like, there's a million reasons to go to LA. There's beaches, there's culture, there's museums. In New York, there's history and culture and history. And Iowa needs to be better, I feel, at sharing with the rest of the world and the rest of the country what it is that happens here. Because if people have no idea, like, if they can't Google you, it's kind of hard. It's really hard to find you. And I think Iowa as a state needs to have more of like a cohesive message that's being pushed in Des Moines. I think Des Moines is trying to insert in some aspects. There's like a soccer stadium that's coming, I think, in the next 20 years. Oh, no way. Huh. So in like 20 years, maybe something will be going on. We'll see.
Huh. No, I mean, I think that's the thing people need to remember too, is they need to think in that scope.
Yeah, like 10, it's big picture stuff. Like when you talk, because these are things that take time to grow. Like when you're talking about like the music scene, what you see is like a bunch of kids getting together and making music or something like that. But what's actually happening is like all these steps being taken for the venue to be open and for people to come to the show so that the artists can get paid and for people to have that knowledge about the arts anyways. It's like an industry. Like if you were trying to open up an oil refinery plant, you'd have to have all those pieces there. And if you wanted to have an oil industry, you'd have to have all these different buyers and all these, I don't know, whatever happens in oil. And I think people need to look at it more systematically like that, where it's like, if we want to do this, like we got to band together and support those places who are doing it in a good way.
Yeah, well, and across genres too. I think that's a big problem.
Oh yeah, like Des Moines is too small to have any type of division in it. If you want to, yeah.
Well, and that I think that's just that's a big hurdle in Iowa. Is like we have people on here all the time. They think they're the GOAT, and like nobody else thinks that.
Right, like, it's like in Iowa, it's hard to even. There's not even like
there isn't a GOAT in Iowa.
And it's hard. Yeah, there's not even a way to crown somebody. Like in New York, if you're like, or just in general, if you're in the XXL magazine, you did something. You're making some kind of hype. In Des Moines, like what's that equivalent? Like,
well, and that's been my thought going forward. Like, if working with other people who are doing this, like, if we really want to grow things, we need some kind of metric to be able to determine, like,
if we're doing it,
if we're doing it like correctly, like who's the person that's like really working for it, and who's the guy that just like has a laptop and they just like and no offense,
there should be room for everybody, but there's got to be a dedicated group of people who are.
There's got to be a differentiate between someone who's been rapping for 20 years and somebody who's rapping for 1.
Depending on when you say differentiated.
Well, okay. I mean, I guess talents, somebody could be talented after a year, but I guess what I'm saying is like they're seasoned artists who are, they have projects they performed, and then there are the people that have not quite hit that point. And I feel like in Iowa, I've seen it on the podcast, they're kind of all mixed in together.
Yeah,
and that's fine.
They're kind of like gatekeepers, like someone.
Yeah,
I think I see what you're saying.
And there's problems with that, and that might kind of go against the Iowa vibe. But I mean, if you really want to have an outlook of actually succeeding, you need that metric to a point.
100%. I think that venue I told you about, XBK, is definitely a place that is seeking to have that. Like, they really try to. They're very intentional with the shows that they do attract.
Well, yeah, I mean, and like when I have people on for podcasts, like I'm like, I want to listen to your music.
Right.
Like I'm not just like, if someone wants to come on and be an artist but they don't have any music, like you're not coming on.
I think sorry. I think that like access to the internet has shown us like all these different things that you can do, and like people think that's what being an artist is or that, but it's really just making your art, and then from there, that's when everything comes. Like whatever you are, I think I also believe everybody's an artist. I think that people just sometimes don't know what their art is yet, what their form, what their not even like art. I think that there's art in how people code, and there's art in it could be art in the way you sweep a room. Like literally, like, that's something the internet's shown us. Like just creativity is the art. Whatever you creatively are doing, that's something that you can.
See, Molly, you're an artist.
That's what I'm saying. No, like you can't. Like if a chef is an artist, there's no way to tell a race car driver definitely. They're not an artist, or a basketball player they're not an artist in the way that they're creatively able to put things together. Yeah.
The unfortunate thing about being a artist chef is there isn't really a lot of length in your creations.
And it's
digested pretty quick.
Right, 100%. But if you're the chef that made the recipe for the McDouble, then your creation's gonna last for a long time.
Yeah, how good is that motherfucker sitting right now? The guy that made the McDouble,
Well, have you seen the movie The Founder?
I have not. I lost interest. I couldn't get into it, but
it was a pretty good movie.
It's fascinating.
You learn that, Ray Kroc really, and anyone who just knows the story better, really kind of took what was already like a great burger product and made it such a enterprise in a whole different way than what the actual McDonald brothers were doing. So I'm not sure, but yeah, whoever made the McDouble is probably, them and their children are probably living pretty well right now.
Yeah, it's like the Waltons.
I would hope, but for theirs, like if not, someone got really screwed out of a deal.
Which is what happens 50% of the time.
Literally.
Have you ever seen the map of how many McDonald's are in the U.S.?
I have not.
Oh my God, pull that shit up.
Just 1,000.
Yeah, you can't even see the it's like, what is this blob full of McDonald's? Like, it's ridiculous. Yeah, map.
No, I've seen that McDonald's is one of the biggest real estate owners just internationally.
Oh yeah, dude, they're gonna be here forever, man.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's not as fun as I. Oh wait, it's that one. The one that your cursor's over, I believe. Yep.
Wow.
So what? Nevada and North Dakota's okay, but
it's like
that's not it. Oh, that's every.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe I'm just tripping, but
No, McDonald's is definitely.
Oh, well, okay. I guess that's pretty. I mean, that's at least accurate. You can just see, like, it's ridiculous.
McDonald's everywhere. That's my biggest takeaway for today.
Do you think McDonald's should be sued for obesity, mass obesity?
Should be sued, man. That's a question. I don't know if they could.
Not really, but I mean,
I don't know if they could be sued. I definitely would say like there needs to be better guidelines on. Is that FDA? That's in food.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I think the FDA needs to do the job of protecting the consumers. I don't think it's McDonald's responsible. Well. I don't know.
Too deep a question.
I think they should be sued. I don't think they. I doubt that it would be easy to bring that suit.
They got sued for hot coffee,
Right. So, that's a good point. So I'm probably just that lawsuit's probably already happening.
Maybe there's enough animosity from everyone in general. To
They could just take them out. Everyone just goes to Burger King.
I wanted to ask you. So you said you went to ISU. We actually have an ISU alumni here in the studio with us, Molly.
Hey,
What have been your experiences going to ISU? Do you have any fun anecdotes or stories? I grew up in I said I grew up in Northwest Iowa, and it's really weird because it seemed like a lot of people there migrated to ISU, and then I moved here, and everyone here is like a Hawkeye fan, and that's all the way over there. It's weird. But I don't know. Did you ever do any like crazy parties or anything nuts like that in ISU? It's always notorious for that.
When I dropped out was kind of when I went to a few parties. I'm really not a huge party person. I like community, and I learned that I like community, but I might not like parties that much. So
community up to a point.
Up to a specific type. So my freshman year, I liked the hall that I was in and the people I was staying with, and over at Barton Hall. My roommate Jack Winarka, we had a great time for sure. But then I left school right after that, so like my experience stopped. I'm from Ames, grew up in Ames, so I've been around it, the school my whole life. But I was studying agriculture at the time and didn't really like the agriculture route very much. So taking time off was great. And now that I'm back in school, I'm really I'm in the College of Design now, and it's a much better fit, and have good, not supervisors, but Jordan Brooks, my MLO, multicultural liaison. No, he's not even that. I'm not sure. I'd be forgetting what Jordan's role is, but knowing some of the people on staff there in the College of Design and having more people I can connect with has been better for me coming back. When I was first there, I really felt it was kind of hard for me to find my place in the school and what I wanted to do. But now that I'm back with a better focus, it's been better. But I don't have like all night rager stories or anything like that.
No. I partied a little bit in college, but not really.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate, I agree with that sentiment because I personally myself dropped out of college and now I'm back in. Yeah. I feel like when you go ideally you just wouldn't go the first time, and the second, the real second, the second time would be the real first time and you'd be focused, but
100%.
I definitely, I've always been someone who's hated school. I've never been able to focus. I always did bad on tests.
Yeah.
And I feel like in the last couple of years, I've finally found something. I'm in video production.
Okay, fire.
That's what I'm doing.
Awesome.
And I feel like that's finally something that I can do well in academically, and it'll just I meld really well with that.
See, I'm glad to hear that, and I definitely feel very similarly in when I'm with studying community and regional planning. It's like once you find out that thing that you actually want to do, it's not like an extra thing to work on. You want to work on it anyways. They're just guiding it for you. I think that I wish that the system wasn't so like you go to high school, you go to college. I think especially community college could save your life. Like some people, they'll go transfer to another state paying however much money and not even know what they want to do yet. And I think that if more people took advantage of community colleges as a way to ease into college, I think there'd be a lot less stories like ours where we left and had to refocus and find what we wanted. Yeah. But it's definitely for anyone out there who is contemplating dropping out, just go ahead and do it, and then you can always come back later.
Yeah, that's I think those people are still going to be ultimately better off than the people who just stick with it, and then they're 10 years in a career, you're fuck, what am I doing?
Right, I hear, you meet a lot of people who got the degree, got the job, worked it for years and didn't like it, and then had to go and do something else. And
Yeah.
I definitely didn't want that to be my story. I think
That's always been one of my greatest fears.
Right. So I think it was literally like almost as much being afraid of doing the wrong thing as of doing like nothing at all. Like I'd almost rather do nothing than the wrong thing.
Yeah. I think everyone should take.
That's maybe not good advice.
I think everyone should take a year off in between high school and college.
Yeah.
Because it's the same, but it's also different in a way.
100%.
You know, I think getting that real world, like working a job and like really, when you discover that how bad that is, then you're more motivated.
Bro, I 100%. I echo that 1000%. I had odd jobs in high school and stuff like that, but I didn't have like a steady type of job until like until our first year of college, or especially when I left school. Then it was like, okay, well, gotta pay rent, so let's do something.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And well, yeah, once you see how you can be anything you want in the world, but your options are kind of limited if you don't have, if you don't have much to back your play, if you don't have a trade, if you don't have a skill, if you don't have connection, if you don't have something. So you got to do something. And I definitely agree that only the real world can teach that lesson. Like school is always going to, at least the way it's ran here, it's still a closed environment. And you can still kind of be a bit mistaken about what it's like outside of there. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think you need college to succeed necessarily, but I think it works well for a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, this is the way that things are set up. Like if you want one of the jobs that already exists, a degree is definitely going to help you.
Yeah.
And especially as people are hiring from all around the world for, a lot of roles. So the bar kind of keeps rising on education. Like a high school degree diploma does not mean what it used to. Like,
oh no.
And our associates and our bachelors, they don't mean the same things as they used to. And it is important to you got to keep up in one way or another. If not keep up, you got to find your way through that tide, because there's a system that's set up for deciding how success works too.
Yeah, man. It is kind of interesting though, going into like, the world of the internet, like how much value school's gonna have in 10, 20 years.
You can teach yourself everything.
Yeah. Well, Elon Musk, for example.
Yeah.
He's publicly said like, you don't need to have a college degree for me to hire you.
Yeah.
Like I just need to be able to see that you can do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I like that a lot, because there's so many other routes to developing knowledge, like real world experience or watching YouTube videos or whatever. Like the internet has decentralized everything so much that like it used to be everything was typed up in books, so you had to go to where the books are, and if the books in the libraries are on the colleges. But now it's online, so you can tap in from anywhere.
It's interesting, man. It's a wild. I think we have a wild ride coming.
I agree. Like we've already experienced a lot of like political and economic change and upheavals during our lives. Maybe not as directly as people who lived through things like the Great Depression or World War II,
but you know what though, like
a bunch of other things.
But you know what though, like I think this might sound egotistical, but I think you could compare our generation to that. We are at a very young age going through a
lot of things.
Insane. Like the country is changing, laws are changing, things are changing. It's
100%. I hear that.
I think we have potential.
Yeah, I think that once maybe we get to that age, we're able to like look back at everything and be more like, wow, that stuff is not normal. But like at this point, like that kind of is our normal. Like you kind of expect to not be able to afford a house without landing a really, really good job. Like, or not, maybe not really, really, but either working your ass completely off or finding something nice, or you have
to have a level of success.
Like it's not, you're not allowed just to live in this society, which is really sad. And it's very much like something that should be motivating and be like, okay, well, I might never be, I don't know, that American dream question always, comes up.
Yeah, I mean, I'll preach what Hunter S. Thompson called in 1972. I think it's dead, man.
100%. I think that it never existed for a large segment of society.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. For the ones that did exist to, it it's always been dominated by the ones at the top, and I agree.
Yeah, it's a rat race, man.
I'm trying to see what it's like outside the borders.
Hell yeah. Well, I think at the end of the day, all we can do is do things like music, podcasting, the things that make us happy, and focus on community, and
100%.
That's all anyone can do. Things are crazy.
100%. Like self-care and healing that comes from all those things. So then you're able to kind of handle the things that happen to you, and then move to make changes as well.
Hell yeah. K.U.B, this has been a fucking awesome episode. We're almost at the 2 hour mark, so
look at us going crazy on the McAllister hours.
Fuck yeah. It's always good stuff.
Thanks for having me. I'm so sorry I was late today.
Oh,
that's like very authentic me, because I'm late to everything. So I'm glad at least that I was able to keep that consistent. But
well, at least you communicated with me and actually showed up, because this summer has been fucking awful. We've had so many fucking people drop out. Like people. There was a motherfucker I was talking to the morning of the podcast, and I was like, "You coming today?" He's like, "Yeah," and I sent him another thing. He just never responded. Never showed. Like,
no,
the same day, motherfucker. Are you kidding me?
Oh damn it!
If it was like you would responded a month ago, and you didn't, I would at least like, okay, you probably just forgot. But like, are you fucking kidding me, dude?
That's gonna be an interesting episode when y'all do get lined up for that. I'll be sure to tune in. You just screaming at someone for like an hour.
We did an episode like a couple episodes ago where I just opened up and like, fuck all people.
Damn.
Fuck all these motherfuckers.
Which episode? Maybe you don't want to name it. I'll check. I'll probably be able to find the one.
It might have just been in the intro. I was just like, you know what, man? Like, fuck all you motherfuckers. Like, I want to come on the podcast because he has a camera and a microphone. You were like blasting I feel you. I'm just a dick. So
you sound like you keep a vindictive rage going.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. My forte of podcasts are like people like Tim Dillon, Joe Rogan, people who are like really like,
Got you.
They don't give a fuck. Like, fuck you.
Yeah.
They're not willing to. They're not afraid to say what they're thinking.
I like that.
Even if people shock it, like, well, it's a fucking podcast. We talk for 3 hours every day. Like,
right.
Get over it.
I think that especially like you said, being out in Iowa, I think that this is a location for it that maybe doesn't have much access to that type of material. Like, something that's actually coming from here. So I think that's important.
Thank you, man.
I like your logo too. It's like a late night type of like. Colors, neon signs, the vibe that I get. That's cool.
Hell yeah. If my schedule allowed it, I would definitely try to do like a late night podcast, but I work nights, unfortunately.
Got you. That's gotta be tough.
Can't do that. K.U.B, it's been a pleasure. Do you have anything else you want to talk about or mention before you tap out? Or
August 20th, Centipede drops on Spotify. You can find me on Spotify, K.U.B. That's K.U.B. K.U.B. I'm on Instagram at K.U.B_Bucha, like kombucha, but spelled with K.U.B, so K.U.B_BUCHA. Definitely go to lonelygrave.com, check out the blog.
Fuck yeah.
Outside of that, I'm working on this public art project, actually I'm helping to manage, called Downtown Des Moines Adventure Stories. That is going to be like an interactive storytelling experience in downtown Des Moines. So if you see some like art installations that you didn't notice there before, definitely go check them out. They're going to have QR codes that are going to take you to this story. That's nice. Super cool. So Downtown Des Moines Adventure Stories coming to downtown Des Moines middle of August through September. And I think that's what I got for right now.
Awesome, man.
It's been awesome to be here. Thanks so much.
Fuck yeah, man. Pleasure to have you on. A very, very bright, talented individual, and I think we had a great conversation. I'd love to have you back on sometime.
I'd love that, and I appreciate it. Thank you. This is I love the form. Just a conversation. That's awesome.
Oh yeah. Joe Rogan's always been I know literally every single person who's ever done a podcast is Joe Rogan's inspiration.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I really try to cultivate like this really chill vibe. You can literally talk about anything.
Yeah.
Not to criticize any other podcasters, but I feel like a lot of them are structured. So I always try to be free form. Talk about wherever the fuck you want, uncensored. I don't care.
I like that a lot because that really lets the person be the person.
Hell yeah. 100%. Stay tuned. Next week we're gonna have Ames, the guy that I mistaken when you were talking about the town Ames.
Oh, you said Brandon Ames?
Yeah.
Yes, I know Brandon Ames. Yes.
Oh no.
Oh no.
His name's Brandon Anderson.
Okay.
Sorry. His rap name is Ames. But he's a cool guy.
I will watch the episode. Yeah. Sorry.
Fuck yeah. No, you're good. So stay tuned next weekend, live at 3. As always, K.U.B, been a pleasure, man.
Appreciate it.